Good afternoon and welcome to Deeper Shopping. We're here live filming at the International Christian Retailer Show, and we are thrilled today to have McKinney Hammond stop by and visit. And you're out promoting one of your new books, and I was going to say, you are a prolific writer. I know before the camera started we were just talking about how these projects have just come to you, but the new book that we're here today is How to Avoid the 10 Mistakes Single Women Make.
Yes. They make more than 10.
I love that. I know.
I don't want to overwheme
kind of narrow it down. Just make them feel completely like they're losers. No, I'm just kidding. But I love that title, and I think that, and I really enjoyed reading the book, and I thought that you hit on some very, very great, and some of it's just common sense, but to see it was great. But share a little bit about your background and kind of the inspiration behind this book. I know that you're known for a lot of your diva titles.
Right.
And the whole diva mystique and, those things. But share a little bit about what was the inspiration behind writing this book.
Well, my core audience has always been the singles, because I was a single struggling with the issues of singleness, and I really had to duke it out with God to get to a place of joy myself. And once I got there and found out it was possible, I became very passionate about sharing that with other single women, because so many of them don't know that singleness and happiness can dwell together in the same house.
Right.
So my first book was What to Do Until Love Finds You, followed by Secrets of an Irresistible Woman. And I've done If Men Are Like Buses, Then How Do I Catch One? The Unspoken Rules of Love.
I have girlfriends that have read all those at some point in time.
101 Ways to Get and Keep His Attention. And so finally, I've done all of the other groundwork on single life and living the victorious single life. And I decided, let me just focus on the mistakes, because I think that as we get older, that sometimes we get a little more desperate and we begin to just really fall down on the job of keeping our act together.
Right. Well, and as women, that's the pressure that society puts. So we've got the clock ticking.
We've got the clock ticking, we've got
everything
the peer pressure,
ticking.
we've got Aunt Mary saying, what's your problem?
Exactly. What is wrong with you? It's just the whole thing. Friends don't, it's like,
You start to question yourself, what's wrong with me?
Absolutely. And it's just that peer pressure starts just squeezing you.
Right, and we begin to make stupid moves.
You think, okay, is it time to settle? Is it time to settle? And you don't, and a lot of times it's a tough point in your life to take stock, too, and go, did I do something? Am I really doing? Am I putting repellent on every morning? What's going on here?
Exactly. So the book really focuses on and it was funny because as I interviewed people and said, what do you think are the biggest mistakes that singles make? They all had to do with dating stuff. And I said, well, most singles that I know, they aren't even dating.
They haven't gotten there.
They haven't even gotten there. So let's talk about life in general. How about the fact that we don't plan for the future because we're hoping to get rescued from it, or just that marriage becomes an idol that completely consumes us and makes us take desperate measures, or the fact that we don't plan for the future with or without a mate. The reality of that, our financial security as well.
I really loved that you brought that up in the book, because I think, and that kind of infused into, I think, one of the other, on the top 10 list, the other one, the Cinderella syndrome. That goes so hand in hand. We think, I want to do this, but I'm going to marry Prince Charming one day. So this is sort of temporary, so I really don't have to invest in my education or invest into the skills that are going to give me a way out to compete in the business world or the creative world. Whatever it is that God has put in your heart, you don't really go out and really explore all the opportunities, because sort of in the back of your mind you're thinking, that'll just be a little season.
Exactly.
My Prince Charming's right there.
Or even just taking advantage of the life that's available to you as a single person while you have the money and the time and you don't have to check with someone else. I mean, I've always wanted to go to the islands. Well, why aren't you going to the islands? You're waiting for a man to go to the islands. What's holding you back? Let's go to the islands. So I always tell people to just explore there. I've always wanted to list and go do it.
Right. Exactly. Enjoy where you're at. Don't try to create something. Don't try to force, the lifestyle that you think you should be having on yourself. Just enjoy where you're at, where God has you.
It's a season. It passes quickly. You could end up marrying a man and then not have the money to do some of the things that you want to do, because then different aspects of life enter into the mix of what you're doing. And all of a sudden, now you got to split that check and you've got to share your time and your space.
True.
And we don't think about that. We only think about the romantic aspect of marriage. I had one young lady say to me, well, I just want to get married because I just want to be able to have sex. And I thought, honey, well, the married folks are saying they're not having any.
like, here, let me write the book after the single life, and we'll set her straight.
Exactly, and so just even the misconceptions about marriage and how you think your life will change.
Be complete, and how it will bring you into you'll become a whole new person just if you could get married.
Right, or that you'll just be happier, and that's not necessarily true. Marriage stretches us and grows us in other ways that become greater challenges. So if we don't settle some issues as a single person, a pitiful single person will definitely be a desperately unhappy married person.
That's so true. That is so true. Yeah. Because really, if you don't have your own sense of identity and security prior to marriage, if you're still out there seeking and defining yourself by how everyone else is perceiving you, you will go into marriage and completely get snowballed into.
That's true.
You'll become something. Then you'll take on the role of, okay, this is what I should be doing now. That security plays such an important role. How do you think, going back with this book, how would you recommend sort of breaking those mindsets of what the ideal of marriage should be to really kind of say, look, single women out there, this fantasy doesn't exist. So how do you kind of go about breaking the mindset and kind of intertwining that with the mistakes that women are making?
Well, marriage is not just about our personal desire. It is a kingdom concept. It is the mini kingdom that we operate within, so that we get a larger scale picture of God's kingdom and how things are supposed to work.
Right.
And so it's a partnership. It's a friendship. It's a lot of things on a lot of levels. It's not just a romantic stamp of approval on your life that you're okay because somebody else wants you.
Yeah.
You haven't just arrived. You've just begun the journey when you get married.
Yeah.
And so just taking a more sober look at the aspects of that and the realities of it. And that's why it's important for single people to have friends who are married, having good marriages, but also understanding the work that it takes to make them good.
Absolutely.
And then focusing on yourself and how you're living your life. Are you taking care of business where you are right now as a single person? Because if you've got your act together, then you're much more prepared. Do you have the heart of servanthood? Is something that I'm huge on, because if you're not into serving people as a single person, you're going to be very frustrated as a married person.
Absolutely. And just even hearing you talk, that kind of brings to mind, men are attracted to women who have it together. That security, that confidence, that really comes out. And men and women are attracted to that confidence.
That's true, but a lot of women get a little sidetracked because they feel that men are intimidated by successful women.
Right.
And I always tell them, men are not intimidated by successful women. A man loves to be proud of his woman and know that she has something going on. What he's turned off by is a successful woman who's more impressed with herself than she is interested
more
in him.
Self-involved with her own life.
Right.
You should be wanting me. I'm perfect.
Let me tell you all about me. And now that I'm finished telling you about me, what do you think about me? That's what they don't like. And so what we have to be very cognizant of as successful women is that we are more interested in them than we are in ourselves.
Right.
And then they celebrate what we're all about as successful women. So
absolutely. And I think that's and one of the things in Sting, and I have friends that, I have a friend who's just getting married. She's 40. She's, been single. She's got a fabulous job. She has her own company. And just, she had her career track. But she was always very focused in dating. But, I look at that and I think there's a reason for that. Enjoy being single and where you're at. Evaluate it, but don't, you don't beat yourself up. Because your singleness isn't about, like you said in the book, how to get a man. It isn't about... it's about becoming the person who you are at that point. And your husband will be better off for us, and so will you, if you understand who you are and understand the mistakes, identify maybe what some of the reasons, like the Prince Charming, and like some of those, I'm not getting the fundamentals, I'm not building it. Because like you said, and I think it's such an important concept for single women to get their mind around, is that marriage really is sort of a holy contract.
Yes.
It really is.
It's a covenant, and
it is a covenant. That will change your life. But if you're not ready for it, it can destroy your life.
Right.
I mean, you look
and let me tell you what the signs are for not being ready for it. If you can only think of what you're going to get out of it, you're not ready.
Yeah.
If you think it's going to solve your problems, you're not ready.
Right. Exactly.
If you think it's going to make you happy, you're not ready.
true. I'm glad you said that, because sometimes women just need to hear it. They just need to hear it. Just no gray area. That this is the way it is. If you're looking at it from this perspective, just know that you're not going to find it.
That's true.
And but also being a Christian woman. And I love that you talk about, obviously a lot of the mistakes that women make is that they sort of put the priority of finding that man, of finding the ideal relationship, seeking that ideal relationship before God.
Yes.
Or even equal to God.
Right. That's very true.
And almost spending all that time asking God to bring that perfect man.
Right.
It's just...
And I always tell women, how would you feel if there was this really gorgeous guy and he kept saying, do you have a girlfriend for me to meet? And you're thinking to yourself, but I'm here. I'm available. I thought I was kind of cute, And he keeps saying, well, I like you, but don't you have a girlfriend for me? If you look at it in that instance and think about how God feels when we keep going to him and saying, don't you have someone for me? And he goes, I'm here. I want to be the lover of your soul. I want to be your provider and love you up and bless you and give you wonderful gifts and presents and surprises and make your eyes sparkle and make you laugh. And
that's so true.
And so I think that we really insult him when we bypass him in search of love, because love begins and ends with him. And he's not going to give you anyone, anyway, that can fill every void in your life, because then there'd be no need for him, and he'll never allow that. And so any person that comes into your life, I don't care how much you love them, they will not be your total fulfillment. God has wired them to fail you in some instances, so that you know that he alone is God, and he's the only perfect one who can completely fulfill you.
That is such an important principle, and I don't think that can be said enough. That really God is the only person that can fulfill, that can complete you.
Right.
That there's nothing that anyone else can do for you that is going to satisfy every single need that you have.
That's very true.
Every single emotion that you have.
And unfortunately, most married people find that out, but singles don't know that yet.
Well, exactly. And you're at different stages in your life too. And I think, like you said, the older you get, you sort of cross over into that little bit of that desperation, and all of a sudden you start compromising a little bit of what here's my list of perfect. Here's my list of I'll compromise, and here's the list of he'll be okay. Exactly. He'll work out maybe. Right. And I just you kind of edge into that, and yet when you start crossing over into that, you've actually compromised over to what putting your own criteria on what God may have out there in store for you, the perfect mate that he may have for you. When you start trying to define the characteristics that you think would be perfect. Because God always does things different than we think they are.
That's true. And we do a major pendulum swing from he's not my type to he'll do. Proverbs says that the hungry soul finds every bitter thing sweet. But the full soul will loathe even the honeycomb. And so basically what the concept is that when we're full, when we're satisfied, we're much more discriminating about the choices we make and what we allow to come into our lives. But when we're hungry and we're desperate, then we settle for anything. Right. And that's not the place that God wants us to be in.
Exactly. And and that's so true. And I think that for a lot of women, finding almost that sense of peace that just says, this, and there is sort of that syndrome, and I know it's kind of the cliche that when you're not looking, it will happen. But I think too,
but it's the truth.
As a Christian, as a Christian woman, you can sit back and say, you know what, this is an issue. God knows the desires of my heart. I'm going to put it out there and just entrust him with it and get on with my life. Get on with my life. And I think that's one of the precepts that you sort of point out in the book in a really great way that just says, just get on with your life. Just do it because I've got it out there. God's got it covered. He knows what's going to be.
And it's in the getting on with your life that you stand a greater chance of meeting that person anyway.
Right, absolutely.
I mean, Ruth was getting on with her life. In the book of Ruth, Orpah went back to look for her husband, and we don't hear anything else about her. Because that was her goal.
That was it.
And I just always tell women, if being married is your goal, we'll never hear from you again. You will fold into oblivion.
Yeah.
But when you get on with your life and you seek someone to serve, and you look beyond yourself and you get over yourself, then you're much more in the position to accidentally, the steps of the righteous are ordered of the Lord. As we just keep stepping out in faith, looking to serve, looking to give of ourselves. The thing that impressed Boaz about Ruth was that she was serving her mother-in-law.
Yeah.
You know, you never know who's watching. So if you're completely self-consumed, that person, that man who could be fabulous for you, can just walk right on by.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Well, thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you on our show. And this is out in September?
Yes.
All right. It says, how to avoid the 10 mistakes that single women make. And I will be passing this along to a few friends. But I appreciate you coming. It's been an absolute joy.
Thank you.
To have you here. And we look forward to, well, a lot more diva.
Yes, a lot more diva events. And yes.
But thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay.